So part of life as a natural redhead is people are always asking you where you got your red hair. They're like, oh, it's so pretty. Who did you get that from? So in my case, both sides of the family. If you met my mother, it would be very obvious because she's a natural redhead. My sister is also a natural redhead, and she's the only sister I've got. And in fact, on my dad's side, there are two sisters who had red hair. One of them's still with us, one of them isn't. Now, I don't really deal with that side of the family, but that's kind of a separate story. I do, however, have adorable kitty cats who are part of my family who are very sweet. I do deal with them. And just because, let me tell you something, just because somebody has red hair doesn't mean you're besties. It doesn't mean you automatically get along. That's so not true. But my sister and I are about 1.5 years apart, and her hair's lighter than mine. Like, you can see my hair. You're not looking brown roots, no blonde roots, nothing like that. No black here. So that's how you can tell this is natural color. You can see some white poking out, which that happens in my family when you get older. In fact, if you saw my mom's hair right now, her hair has a lot of white in it, but she's still got a little bit of that orange. And apparently back in the day, her hair was like this orange, even brighter, in fact. There's pictures of her. So it definitely is an interesting experience going around with my mom and my sister because we've gone places and people basically look at you like you're space aliens who have just landed. Like we're a bunch of pod people or something and we're just going to take their brains or something. It's just really weird. Like I definitely noticed when I dealt with other minorities, we didn't get those looks like that because I think they're used to that too. Where people tend to look at them like they're the weirdos and they're space aliens. So they kind of get it. But you deal with like the typical white person, no, you're going to be getting those kinds of looks. That's just how it goes. So apparently, if you go back further around my dad's side, there was a grandmother who I personally never met. There was like his mother. And in fact, I don't know too much about that side of the family because they're kind of nutty. I don't know. There's a lot of screwiness going on. It's like one of those southern things, I guess. But apparently at one time she was Miss Atlanta, Georgia. Now, I have no way of knowing if this is true. This is like some family story. I can't really verify it. I probably should try that at some point because I actually do have her name. I remember writing it down before my father passed away and he told us about it. But actually, I was told that apparently I favored the aunt who favored her. So my mom's like, you look more like your aunt than you look like me. And apparently she was like, your aunt was a real beauty when she was young. And I don't know if I've seen too many pictures of her young, but my grandmother apparently was a beauty queen at one time. So considering I have a profile on IMDb and I've been told I'm really pretty and I do acting and modeling and things like that, it's probably not too far-fetched. So I don't know for sure if that particular story is true, but it's like, okay, that could be true. And apparently she was not quite the same woman that I am because she apparently did put men ahead of her kids, which partly contributed to people in my father's side of the family being a little screwy. In fact, I didn't even realize it until many, many years later. Apparently my father was one of the more functional members of that family, even though my own family is kind of dysfunctional. So it's like, well, my father got out of that with an alcohol addiction, but he had relatives doing a lot worse. In fact, I learned many, many years later from my sister why we didn't hang around a particular uncle very much and why we did not see him. And in fact, I remember as a kid, we did not spend a lot of alone time with these people. My parents were around. And I realized, okay, learning a story from my sister that was rather disturbing, I'm like, okay, now I understand that. And it also kind of made me wonder, okay, how do I feel about my parents at this point? But I can definitely tell you that growing up with this is kind of interesting. At least I wasn't the only person in my family, unlike my niece, who, other than her mom, she's the only kid in my sister's family who's got red hair. But she does look like me, and my sister's kind of pushing for her to look like me, actually. She's like, I want her to be an attorney and a model, too. And I'd like her to do things and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's good. I'll be a role model for the kiddo because then she'll realize, okay, you can do other things in life. And you don't have to have people tell you, no, you can't. You can be like, well, you know what? I'm going to do it my way. And darn it, I'll get it done. So screw you. So I'm like, I want that for my niece. In fact, I saw her on FaceTime a couple of days ago. And I'm like, okay, when I go to see her, it's going to be interesting. And in fact, if you followed me on Instagram or you went on Facebook or things like that, you probably would see pictures of me and my niece. Because she kind of is my mini-me. My mom even says, oh, she's girly like you are. And she does all this other stuff. So I think it's really cool. And I will definitely be looking forward to seeing my family members for Christmas. So basically the question to where did I get my red hair is, have you met my family?